But what was interesting to me about him was he had 3 Michelin stars, and he was still trying to learn how to get better.
No, and I feel like it was like that for a lot of us. It's easier for me than it was for Tom because I wasn't playing a character that had already existed in the previous film.
Here's a rewritten version of your script. Meet Macy Rachel Zegler, a name that seemed destined for Hollywood stardom. She shot into the spotlight with incredible speed, landing roles that many aspiring stars only dream of. But just as fast as she rose, she became one of the industry's most polarizing figures. Some claim she's box office poison, while others argue she's been misunderstood and unfairly criticized. Now, with rumors swirling that Disney might sever ties with her, possibly as soon as Christmas Day, the speculation has reached a fever pitch. How did this bright newcomer, who once seemed like the future of Hollywood, become a symbol of its most complex controversies? And why are insiders quietly whispering that her time in the spotlight might be running out? Let's take a closer look at what's really going on behind the scenes. Rachel's journey didn't start with scandal. Her performance in West Side Story earned critical acclaim, showcasing her impressive vocal range and undeniable on-screen charisma. Hollywood quickly took notice, dubbing her the next big thing. Yet, even early on, some fans began to feel her social media posts came off as condescending. Critics who had once praised her also started to notice a tendency to dismiss or talk down to certain fan perspectives. While these early red flags barely registered with casual observers, a dedicated group of viewers started to take note. Behind the glamorous red carpets and the standing ovations, the seeds of controversy were quietly taking root. How's that? It keeps the original ideas, but with a more polished flow. Let me know if you want any changes.
I did. It was so fun. Oh my god, as a huge Disney fan, it was so exciting to finally get to go to D23. Yeah. I live on the East Coast, so I was never able to go, and also tickets sell out like in a flash. So it was so exciting to go, and my mom was super jealous because my mom is the reason I'm a Disney fan.
She was like, Jacqueline, if they play Getaway Car or Maroon, she's on crisis watch. Not only did she play Getaway Car, she also played Maroon. I was having a mental breakdown in the audience at MetLife Stadium.
Here's a refined version of that section. Minor comments about her co-stars and her outspoken views on social media sparked quiet debates among fans. But at the time, the attention wasn't intense enough to derail her momentum. That, however, was about to change. What began as small ripples quickly grew into waves, eventually shaking the very foundation of Disney's confidence in her. This, in turn, threatened to overshadow one of the studio's most beloved classic tales. When Disney announced that Rachel would star in the live-action Snow White remake, the spotlight was immediately on her. She was set to be the face of a beloved character cherished for generations. But what should have been a triumphant career milestone quickly soured. From the moment the first trailer dropped, the production was bombarded with dislikes on YouTube, tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, eventually crossing the million mark across multiple uploads. The response painted a grim picture of public sentiment. The backlash wasn't limited to just the trailer's aesthetics or script changes. Rachel's interviews began to rub many the wrong way. Some fans felt she disrespected the original 1937 animated classic with dismissive remarks about its storyline and outdated themes. Others accused her of pushing a brand of modern feminism that, according to critics, the audience never asked for. As Twitter, Reddit, and YouTube exploded with outrage, rumors of tension behind Disney's closed doors began to surface. Was it possible that the very company that had chosen Rachel to bring Snow White back to life was now regretting that decision? This version keeps the essence but smooths the flow a bit. How does it sound now?
And my advice to them was to not hear the noise as much, to continue doing the job that we've entrusted them to do. Right. Which is to tell the truth, to state the facts, to present the news in an accurate and a fair and in a timely basis. Anything that has to do with technology creating opportunity for us, I find very enjoyable. The creative process at its highest level is at times frustrating, but often, and fortunately for us, really enjoyable. The board was making a decision to make a change at the CEO level at Disney, and that they might ask me to step back.
And you say to her?
And I said to Willow, I'm getting this call. It's possible that I could get asked back.
Here's a refined version of that part. The storm surrounding Snow White continued to brew, and Rachel's other projects soon raised eyebrows for their disappointing performances. Despite the star power of Steven Spielberg and the iconic brand, West Side Story failed to meet financial expectations. Then came Shazam! Fury of the Gods, which floundered in theaters, performing far worse than industry analysts had predicted. If these two underwhelming results had been isolated incidents, perhaps no one would have been too concerned. But Rachel's name soon became linked with lackluster box office returns. Nothing highlighted this trend more than Y2K, billed as a horror comedy capturing the chaotic energy of the year 2000. Despite the premise, the film opened to a meager $2.1 million on a $15 million budget, an undeniable failure by any measure. In its second weekend, it plummeted, dropping over 60% and earning a fraction of what older Ray releases made. Critics savaged it with harsh reviews, and fans on social media piled on, especially directing their criticism at Rachel. This chain of box office bombs and ongoing controversies led many to label her a jinx, while it's not entirely fair to pin a film's failure on one actor. The entertainment industry often seeks a scapegoat, and Rachel found herself cast in that role time and again. As Y2K faltered, new rumors began to spread. Disney was supposedly planning to fire Rachel, and on Christmas Day, no less. This version tightens the structure and adds a bit of flow, keeping the essence of the original. How does it feel?
That would be my preference as well.
Why your preference?
Well, look, I'm going to be 72 years old tomorrow. I've put in almost 50 years. There are other things in life that I'd like to do. I am confident that the board will be able to identify an able successor.
The one where he was in the boxing ring.
Boxing ring, and Howard Cosell, who was then a famous announcer for ABC Sports, introduced him. And I was asked at some point to get Mr. Sinatra Listerine. You're at Madison Square Garden. It's not like there's a Listerine store in Madison Square Garden. So I dutifully ran out, found a drugstore of some sort. This is before CVS. This is 45 years ago. It's not designed right now to necessarily develop great leaders or to encourage more people to seek public office. It just is far more difficult. Now, I've never been in it, but from what I observe, it's far more difficult to run for office today than ever before.
Here's a polished version of that section. The rumors about Disney cutting ties with Rachel Zegler spread faster than ever before. While no official statement confirmed such a drastic measure, the chatter quickly took over online forums. For a company long recognized as an industry giant, one known for standing by its leading ladies, this rumor suggested just how deep the fractures might run.
Executives, it was said, were weary of negative headlines overshadowing
multi-million-dollar productions. Behind closed doors, whispers began to surface about potential replacements for Rachel in future Disney projects. Other studios, already on edge, began treading carefully. Fans and bloggers started asking, is Rachel Zegler too big of a risk? The phrase box office poison began cropping up not only on Twitter but reportedly in the boardrooms where decisions about upcoming films were made. Some producers apparently hesitated to attach her name to any new projects, despite her undeniable talent. Even if many of these rumors were exaggerated by internet gossip, the fear they stoked was real enough to seriously damage her credibility in the industry. As controversies mounted, so did the social media outrage. Hashtags calling for her firing trended sporadically, fueled by screenshots of her interviews or tweets that fans felt were condescending. Each new clip seemed to ignite further debate. Was she misunderstood or genuinely arrogant? For many, it didn't matter. The narrative that Rachel Zegler had insulted the spirit of Snow White or talked down to fans took hold and proved nearly impossible to shake. This version streamlines the flow and emphasizes the key points more clearly. Let me know what you think.
What was it like seeing yourself for the first time in full Snow White drag?
I love that description. It's perfect. Oh my god, well, when you get to wear Sandy Powell, first of all, insane. And then you get to be lit by Mandy Walker.
She's my best friend, and she's the one who sent me the casting notice and said, "Thank me when you're famous." It's the craziest thing ever that it came true in that weird way, and that's why I bring her everywhere, and she's the best ever. But yeah, I put myself on tape. It's the worst tape you've ever seen in your life. I have no idea how I got the part still. And it's being used to teach future casting directors at NYU.
No, I feel like it was like that for a lot of us. It's easier for me than it was for Tom because I wasn't playing a character that had already existed in the previous films. And those performances are so wonderful that you don't want to try to recreate anything because there's the fear of failing miserably. But also it's 64 years before the original films take place, the original books. And Francis Lawrence, who directed Catching Fire and both Mockingjay films, and Nina, who produced all of the Hunger Games content, they didn't put any pressure on us to try to recreate anything.
Here's a revised version of that section. The casual moviegoer might have shrugged and thought, I don't care who's starring, I just want a good film. But in an era where online perception can make or break a movie, negative chatter can be devastating. Fans who felt Rachel had mocked the source material vowed to boycott Snow White and anything else featuring her. Even the holiday season, usually a time of unity and celebration, couldn't quiet the growing discontent. By this point, the rumors of a Christmas Day firing had become a rallying cry for those who believed Rachel should face consequences for her perceived disrespect. Disney had hoped to celebrate its 100th anniversary in style, reinforcing its position as the pinnacle of family entertainment. But instead, the swirling controversies tarnished the occasion. Insiders spoke of internal firefighting sessions, hushed meetings dedicated to damage control. From leaked set photos to scathing headlines about woke agendas, each passing day seemed to bring more negative commentary tied to Rachel. Whether it was Snow White, Y2K, or older remarks that kept resurfacing, the narrative was only growing louder. Meanwhile, rival studios observed Disney's predicament with a mixture of caution and relief. Nobody wanted to deal with a high-profile controversy like this. This version keeps the same narrative flow but adds some tighter phrasing. Does it work for you?
When a creator has pitched you a great story and you've given them the ability to go out and tell that story, you've given them the resources, the money, the tools, the place to tell that story. That story is... The rice has to be body temperature, and if it takes too long to serve it, it's no longer body temperature. But what was interesting to me about him was he had 3 Michelin stars, and he was still trying to learn how to get better, how to be better.
Yes.
And I showed that to executives at Disney. Business with large Western companies and brands, but we bring to China a type of ideology, admittedly a relatively benign one as it relates to politics in China, but still a Western ideology. And in many ways, that had value to them.
Here's a polished version of that closing section, especially if they can avoid it. Some industry watchers believe the fiasco may have even influenced casting decisions for other high-budget films. If a rising star stumbles too many times, especially in the public eye, offers can start disappearing. Rachel Zegler's once promising trajectory took a sharp nosedive. She went from being a sought-after newcomer to becoming a cautionary tale about how quickly fortunes can shift. Ultimately, Rachel Zegler's story offers a glimpse into Hollywood's unforgiving nature. One moment, you're the acclaimed face of a new generation's musicals. The next, rumors swirl that the biggest studio in the game plans to let you go on Christmas Day, no less. While there's no official confirmation, the mere whisper of such a move speaks volumes about how far she's fallen in both public and corporate esteem. But here's the lingering question. Is a comeback completely off the table, or is there a path to redemption? Hollywood loves a good comeback story just as much as it loves drama. If Rachel manages to rebrand, repair fan relations, and pick projects that resonate with audiences, it's not impossible for her to pivot. The real challenge will be whether she can overcome her biggest hurdle, public perception, and prove she's more than the controversies that have followed her. Let us know your thoughts.